fly is up or not.
My God.
Don't worry, taking the time is worth it. Yeah, those organizers love this. I'm like pandering the wrong place.
Okay.
This year, the state of Texas will experience a unique astronomical phenomenon. For the second time in 6 months. Back in October, the moon moved in front of the sun in the early morning, causing a partial solar eclipse. Now, in a couple of weeks, the moon's going to pass in front of the sun again. But this time, it'll be a total solar eclipse, just like they show it in the movies. The sky will go dark in the middle of the day. If you have any passing interest in outer space and astronomy, it's the kind of once-in-a-lifetime event that you've got to see if you have the means to. I first heard about the impending eclipses back in 2022 as a lifelong Houstonian who was obsessed with NASA and space travel as a kid. Celestial events like these tend to fill my mind with all sorts of imaginative ideas. I picture myself as an Arab astronomer or a Mayan mystic making calculations on the roof of my home. Or maybe I'm a Roman soldier in the midst of battle, wondering if Sol Invictus had chosen to abandon me in my time of need. Or perhaps I'm something a little less fantastical, but no less wondrous, like an astrophysicist out in Marfa working at the observatory, tracking the movement of the spheres and gathering data that will help fill in our gaps in our understanding of the universe and our place in it. Naturally, the first thing I did was look up the path of these upcoming eclipses. When I did, I discovered something wonderful. Both of these eclipses would pass directly over central Texas in the middle of the day, right on top of the city of Concord, where my father-in-law owned a house on the Frio River. I remember telling my wife immediately, texting my father-in-law in all caps, River House Trip, October 2023 and April 2024, eclipses. I dreamed up a beautiful weekend getaways where we'd gather with friends to observe the eclipses. If it was cold, we could make fires. We could source these awesome eclipse glasses to protect our eyes from the damage. It would be nothing short of epic. I told everyone I knew to clear their calendars because we were doing this and everyone was pumped. Then, in November 2022, my wife asked me for a divorce. 2023 became a different kind of year for me. I'd tell people who asked me about it that it was a rebuilding year, like the Astros in 2013, you know? I spent it in safe mode, ravaged by uncopable emotions, and in therapy once a week. I'd resolved to do the necessary work to make myself better, to walk that long road back to myself with my eyes wide open and unafraid of the feelings as they arose. After all, my religious friends say, God gives his rootinest battles to his tootinest cowboys. But that don't mean it ain't the wild, wild west. The thing they don't tell you about tragedy is that the emotions can come and get you when you're least expecting it. Even now, feeling as healed and moved forward as I'm going to be for the foreseeable future, Spotify left me in a mess in the coffee shop the other day after my dayless sunker punched me with our song, the one we danced to at our wedding. Not cool, Spotify, not cool. Back when the October eclipse was approaching, I was suddenly blindsided by the memory of the trip I wanted to plan. At first, I resolved to reconfigure a solo hill country trip for the eclipse. I had some friends in Austin I could ask about staying with after all. But that friend group fell into her orbit, after the divorce, and I didn't want to risk learning that they were all going along with my eclipse plan after all. Just now, instead of... I'm in the right place. Just now, instead of me being there with them, it would be them with her new boyfriend. So instead, I started talking to my pal Blair, who was going up to Blanco for the eclipse. She was leaving at ass crack of dawn to be there in time, though, and that sounded wholly unappealing to me. It just so happened that all this was occurring the same weekend as the deadline came for my ex and me to file our taxes. We'd put in an extension the previous April because the thought of doing taxes while we were also working through the paperwork and emotional damage of divorce was a non-starter. She owned a small business, so I sent her all of my info and deductions so she could file everything together. I tried not to bother her since this was a real solid she was performing, but I also had to budget in case we owed something, so I texted to inquire about the status of the taxes. What was the final damage on the taxes? Have to wait for it to be approved, but we shouldn't be owing anything. Hell yeah, marriage for the win, one last time. Well, just put out the good vibes and manifest that they accept the return I sent. I'll light all the appropriate candles and hit up my Bruja friend from college. Heart reaction. Later that day, she sent me a screenshot letting me know that the taxes had been accepted. We weren't going to owe anything this year. Marriage for the win, one final time. I responded, "Nice." What was the refunded amount? Or is that to be determined later? She replied, "I'm not sure. I'm out of town right now. I'll have to log in and check when I get back." She's out of town. Like for the eclipse? That little thought was enough to send me raging. I was fully aware that it was just a thought, flimsy conspiracy theory I made up in my mind. She could be out of town for completely other reasons, on a completely different vacation. She was always ambivalent about science and astronomy. Anyways, she probably didn't even remember there was an eclipse. I was the space nerd in the family. And anyway, what would it change if she was at the river house for the eclipse? We were still divorcing. She was still dating someone else. Who cares if they're doing something I wanted to do? I care. That's who. Eventually, I was able to kind of overcome that train of thought and recognize that it only led towards madness. So rather than overcomplicate things, I decided to simply head up to Black Hole that morning and sit out in front with a book. I would sip a cup of coffee, do a little reading, and watch the eclipse shadows there. As it turned out, the situation was exactly what I needed. The place was abuzz with activity, and the weather was perfect. Not a single cloud in the sky and crisp fall air. Some friends had the same idea I had, so I walked into a surprise, unplanned hangout. My previous downward spiral of negative thoughts and self-hatred were completely squashed in favor of the beauty of humanity and our capacity for simple wonder. Just a damn good day. Now, in a couple weeks, we're going to get the real deal. The total solar eclipse. However, I'm not in Texas anymore. I've moved to California with barely a plan, just a desire to be away from all those painful memories and build a life of 24/7 creativity. I've been here a month now, and the homesickness is starting to set in. I missed the rodeo. I miss South by Southwest. And in 2 weeks, I'm going to miss the eclipse. I'm trying to tell myself that there will be another solar eclipse somewhere in the world during my lifetime, so I will be able to see one before I die, I hope. I don't think about my ex-wife that much anymore, but that old negative thought pattern is threatening to return with the celestial phenomenon. Will they go to the river house? Will they have the epic party I wanted to plan? Why wasn't I able to be the husband she needed me to be? Why am I here, not there, with her and my friends and the eclipse? This is the thing that makes starting over so hard. Your memory clings to old lives you didn't want to leave, but were forced to. You've got to give yourself closure, reframe your own mind, and protect yourself and your peace. No one else can do it for you. And for a long, long time, the slightest breeze can send you backsliding all the way back to the beginning of that journey. And you find yourself missing something that logically you know wasn't serving you any longer. 'Tis the funny contradiction of being alive. And now that I think of it, she never told me what our refund was.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right, now shut up. We did it. Now we can all go home and we can think about the things we've heard here. Y'all have a good night.